Hello, America, Americans. There, should we know since founding that there are a whole bunch of ways there are fake sciences that are pretending other. Where and how we know since we're kids. There's been this correlation. People have been lying about their passions and emotions regarding the value of Native Americans. Volume as the human volume science. How it is, how their natural difference, like that of black pupils and the whites of eye, how it is assigned other by a breaching method to mean other, and how there was uses of roles without sustained, and with all that roles without sustained would cause roles with blaming that instead on other things others themselves, because nature was demonstrating roles with a breaching method that was entrenched in modern countries since before their founders and since before our founders were born. Forced roles with everyone's own factory nature, slavery, self-value too. Was this for the method that everyone missed because they were focusing on how the sickly distinct things that wouldn't be manifest that way, like war, like slavery. Those things were propagated by a human factory nature breaching method to invest everyone blaming other things, others themselves. Forgiveness, for example, has to do with where and how people pretend passions and emotions against Joseph Mengele as collusions with him. See, while they were doing sick things with psychiatry's ties to databases in Germany, in America, in Italy, our nations have types of police forms, including with the military, who are doctors of psychiatry, and where and how that was used to measure and maintain collusions with various natures of organized crime, not legitimately. Now, these are also people where and how they share with hundreds of nations subject treatments like criminal justice, where they can't defend their factual nature quality aspects in nature with that and afford discerned or use properly the short words of others. So on a mass scale, they lie about what the branches of government actually communicate, and or who's worse is differentially, but there's timed collusion with overt criminal enterprises, plural, with and with private ones, and with a hyper singular hyper criminal enterprise slash criminal enterprises. And the slash part is where and how it uses remotely self-valued and self-defended uses of the names of everyone in every location, therefore every country, as systems tactically ulterior from the one that is hyper-native pure, which is one of the things it demonstrates to us. If we are actually, honest. See, but how they get away with this dishonesty is switching names and forging names. And collusions at crime scenes the interbranch had. And they're already blamed on different motivations because foreign bodies. This method uses effectively, even if a majority of people start focusing on the proofs of abridged constitution nature and other pretended while screening it for foreign bodies roles with that here and there, because there's also a hyper foreign body role. And it came from semi-ancient times, which already individual grouped and all humanity voicing were more and more incapable of defending themselves and of affording discern how the ancients knew how to cause positive value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and discern the difference between that, and check if what they revealed is only positive as a criminal insidiousness nature or positive, but per nature's system. English was revealed to teach this. For example, through revelations that come through where and how, there are five distinct identities of one singular hyperpossession over all parts of English. For example, that's why there are five names for the verb. And the science reveals that the ancients would teach that the name for the infinitive, the phrase, an infinitive phrase is exception is an exception nature is in demonstration of the same thing. And more, while it demonstrates how nature uses the three ways we could only reveal or make up that come with three hyper additional ways that are singularly bound. Per science that begins with the observation of the hyper invisible, hyper simultaneous, as a distinct identity of value progression involved with where and how the different species of bodies of life have two eyes also. For example, they didn't invent that. We didn't invent that. It was revealed by a further present relative identity of a distinct identity of simultaneous nature, therefore being referred to as the hyper-simultaneous. Ron Adams is a person who has been saying fake things online he repeated with Officer Powers. Ron Adams, there's also other people, there are other accounts associated with him. And this Officer Powers, where he made confessions tied to him. There's a principal child abuser that Officer Powers is involved with upskirt natures and other natures of pictures of the kids. See, this is also former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved planting evidences online, also with WFSB, WTNH, and Fox Connecticut News, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed all along Route 175. And at the corner of Route 175 and Ridge Road, the intelligence community has roles with the World Trade Center names and with mayors who've been planting names also with their family members and with judges and prosecutors and their family members. So all along the roads and routes like that in conjunctions to them and to that. These are also names on off the state of Connecticut Judicial Branch offices, on off the state of Connecticut Corrections offices, roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones. They're pretending it's legitimate with their roles with hundreds of all these countries like Russia, Ukraine, America, collusions against our own together with Hartford Hospital has a whole bunch of people involved with intelligence communities in my area that I never had anything to do with, used to plant fake things with all sides in criminal and civil cases. Their lawyers, the lawyers on both sides, victims and victims advocates, and people associated, including with Sandy Hook and Sandy Hook Promise. And everyone's tactically delusions wrought too. That's also evidence, hyper evidential. So Ron Adams has been making up things, calling me a doctor, pretending things. And he's been making confessions and saying fake things and switching them. He's involved also with digital police of the World Trade Center attack, who have roles with that, and intelligence community on and off at the locations next to the news and other news media locations involved. They're implying that they have on a standard basis roles with the intelligence community with the briefings at press conferences at Central Connecticut State University in Britain, I have a whole bunch of names involved planting evidences on and off campuses and database tied, including insurance locations, because these are people further on the World Trade Center to be read aloud. The IRS. Ron Adams says the IRS is auditing me because I have never reported that the $600 I won from home racing, from horse racing as income. Can you help? I guess that guy never thought I could outrun this horse. Ron Adams is involved with Officer Powers and some FBI agents involved with child sex offenders, other natures of child abusers at the same time, other natures of organized crime bodies. There are some Los Solitos and their roles with military on off, Weathersfield locations and intercities locations with the same names, interbranch though. The state of judicial branch offices in Weathersfield. Didn't you? Oh, so is that the only Powell that's involved? I mean, besides the way they have other their family members involved too. I told you get on name paper with them because they've been switching names, and there are more credible threats and roles with poisons and drugs with the kids. And there are doctors who've been attaching the kids and their families to fake conversations with themselves and fake ties to themselves and their family members. Fake natures of ties too. What are the other names? What are the names of the other officers? Also, the social media of Judging Freedom, Judge Napolitano. I asked him because New Britain Superior Court, they've been fabricating things into databases since I was a kid. And Connecticut District Court has roles names with that. And Hartford courts, they were playing like there are people that work with Hartford courts in the Britain Superior Court that were affected to make confessions to me and requests for help because of names involved with this Powers, who's been involved with identity theft, fraud, slander. He's tactically delusions raw. I don't know what he looks like yet. He's a little punk behind a keyboard. He's one of the ones with WTNH fabricating with the FBI, audio and video. There was a whole bunch of people tied to a Fred Gruzet and into a Justin Kovinskis. Also with the streets parallel. There's a girl who was dragged to her death, reportedly dragged to her death. Whether it was made up or not, that girl and the Violet family had roles with that and with names on at this. She was dragged to her spot death from the spots next to Hartford Hospital. And the FBI director has roles with them with that. Robert Luskin. Planting evidences. I never had a class with with a Violet in my life. With Margaret Violet and his brother. Ron Adams says there was a Lieutenant Gregory Stevens of California. There were other people with California. A John Mayano recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Jennifer Kennepicky, and there's an Aiello family /S involved with them intercities through time at spots next to the state capitol and next to campuses. They have roles with foreign and domestic medical families, with identity thefts and frauds. These are criminally formed people. The intelligence community also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they've been using the Miami family, the Mayano family, and others tied to the Cololo family. Weathersfield police said over the phone is involved with them forging and switching names. They said the name Sullivan is involved with it. They have Weathersfield town offices with their roles with Afghans, leaders, and kids through time. And the difference, like they have women who were, since they were kids, used for pawns, used for criminally foreign influence roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, planting evidences on campuses with the FBI, with unions, insidious bodies of insidiousness. So this Ron Adams is involved with judges and police forms who forced the principal child abuser who was caught anyway. And they've been hiding what's actually recorded. Ron Adams has roles with campus retired and standing intelligence community at Central Connecticut State University and at whatever other university he's involved with himself. So now he said also the Pittsburgh police. It's against the law to make up things about the police, especially to obstruct justice as child abuse. You're in the roles of further child abuse, Ron Adams. There are some police with the name Mendez who also attached me to fake audio and video contacts with fake quotations, conversation with them, and others involved with that. Since I was a kid, they've been. I never had a class with Mendez family, Mendez police, and some with the name Domain. They have role with FBI and overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people on campuses putting in religious spots with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and in the form of evidence is crimes too. Federal evidence, rules of evidence is crimes too. On all Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, and the buildings next to it has something to do with it. They're confessing this also with these names like this Ron Adams. So Ron Adams, who is this? Where does this Ed Powers live? And so it's important that you get these people onto paper with yourself too. And you guys been involved with wire crime acts and methods of Wethersfield Police with other police forms. Whiting Forensics has a Bob Chase who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Phil Cololo was one of the names involved further with them planting evidences on my street too. And next to the houses of the kids they've been abusing through time. More than. So they have interbranch kids involved with this, like with and their intimate ties. And with foreign bodies involved. So Ed Powers is one of the police that Ron Adams recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with others. Is one of the names. There are other officers with the name Powers. They switch names too. Wethersfield Police with other police forms. It has something to do with their roles with state police through time with Whiting Forensics. That has roles with predicate acts with the same house /S involved with the Wethersfield Police wire crime, switching names there and at other locations. They've been faking things into the databases so they can't be trusted interbranch. They can't be communicated with. So we have to get them on paper. So I asked online to have Judge Napolitano get them the one name in sequence. They have female black judges and women, white judges, female, involved with male judges, involved with child offenders that are also KKK black themed families and Confederate flag themed families. Not legitimate police forms unmarked, not legitimate roles with training police forms. Like in Middletown has a whole bunch of locations and names involved with names next to Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, where and how they've been planting evidences with names next to campuses involved with identity thefts and frauds. And online with Ron Adams, there's an Anthony Yagman and his brother. He has a brother. I don't know his name. I think they call him Burger. I don't know his real name, if that's his real name. And they have other neighbors and I think another brother. I don't know. Through time, involved with names near me, involved with drugs and medicines, crimes also with doctors, with kids, attaching kids and their families to fake locations, fake ties to themselves and to others, fake nature ties to others. They've been planting evidences with judges and prosecutors, retired and standing involved. So, Judge Napolitano, this Ron Adams and other counts associated with him, he has roles with former director of the FBI and Robert Luskin with co-defendants of his, a former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. They've been planting evidences on off Connecticut District Court on off Connecticut, New Britain Superior Court, on off Hartford courts, and on off the state judicial branch offices with names next to it through time. Also involved with the World Trade Center used criminally foreign influence. Certain type of victim slash hyper victim used pretending other self-value roles that way to keep self-valued victim slash hyper victim where it's kept. Sickly distinctly, everyone. To keep how sickly non-distinctly functional, how left out by logic that has integrity, which has not spoken. Because these are people also involved with New York City intelligence community. There's a Fred Grisey, and there's a people associated with the Fred Grisey, with the intelligence community in New York, who has roles with foreign and domestic child offenders. Also, medical communities, people with Sandy Hook are involved here. Sandy Hook campuses and courts tied to that. So let's get them on paper because they use wire crime acts and methods where they fabricate transcripts of the wires too, and with WTNH, fabricating emails, changing what's actually recorded. That's also hyper evidential. So Ron Adams, how do you feel about being involved with like this Jim Beam from Wethersfield Schools, the principal child abuser? Ron Adams, with this Ed Powers, you recorded, confessed, demonstrated involved with, he's got drugs and medicines crimes and sexual crime roles with the kids through his roles as a cop putting fake evidences as collusions with such predators. Overt criminal enterprises, plural, and private ones have been planting evidences on off the parks and spots next to them intercities too through time and with mayors. And it's nothing personal. They've been that's why because they're used remotely. They're needing to plant motivation. So Ron Adams is over here trying to give me commands, giving me commands, because he's overtly obstructing justice. Because also these are people who have been changing and fabricating evidence and planting fake motivation. There's also a Dillon family who's been planting evidences on all sides of my houses, on all sides of my house and all sides of their houses. These are child abuses, elderly abuses at the same time, and they make people self-value roles, which we have to address, where and how people are afraid to respond and how they ignore things. So I asked to get them on paper. The Connecticut Interbranch has been switching names with a whole bunch of people tied to this Ron Adams intercities through time. There's also names forging and switching and using similar names. East Hartford Intelligence Community has East Hartford recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with them hiding behind the things associated with the aircraft place and a CRT place. I believe it's a CRT is the name of it, community resource. In other words, these are also people involved with the KKK black themed and Confederate flag themed military families, police forms still, and their neighbors, planting evidences, and the difference of that as corners too. So don't look now. There's a guy with a machete standing right behind you. Also, people from Sandy Hook recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have roles with the intelligence community, people named Neville, and some people associated with the where there was an Omni place in Wethersfield. But since it was before it was there and since after it was there, there's intelligence community there and next to the banks there and stuff like that in the corner of the street who've been planting evidences with a whole bunch of different countries and on off campuses as collusions with predicate acts, fake things typed into campuses. These are people with election crime roles, remote uses of Wethersfield town offices, for example, and other election spots. So Ron Adams has been planting evidences with an officer, Ed Powell, and they've been using remotely, whether they realize it or not, whether he realizes or not, Judge Napolitano's social media and the value of his sources' information. So there were a whole bunch of other countries involved. And I'm trying to leave that out because until, in other words, because they know it's involved, but there is further too. And so they're all, each side is a fake integrity. So they have all these other countries and their family members who've been planting evidences and or roles with uses of that, which are also singularly used, like at corners of streets and corners of buildings, with the people online who are pretending passions and emotions and motivations, like Ron Adams. He's pretending motivations for why he's obstructing justice simultaneously, overtly / insidiously, 3 ways at once. For the same way, every subject comes with the increasing value of the active, and how there are always increasingly more subjects coming at the same time, or relative at the same time. This live broadcast is also a continuation of the identity of relativity theorem. The identity of relativity / hyperrelativity theorem. And the opposite sequence nature / simultaneous nature is true conversely / hyperconversely. That way, 3 ways. 3 distinct identities of relation to itself. So Judging Freedom is a YouTube channel, by Judge Napolitano. Judging Freedom. And Judge Napolitano was a retired federal judge. So he understands the law. See, but since some ancient times, people A through Z been speaking other for the law than we have been capable of speaking. Part of the way this has been gotten away with, even countries grouped, if they are a majority and they ignore this, continue to ignore it, they'll still be sensed and overcome by the breaching method from semi-ancient times. Anthony, I will cause all crimes. Ron Adams says, Anthony, I will cause all crimes and offer myself to the police immediately if you do 30 jumping jacks. So also, people with the name DeMoral recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's someone with the name Jack associated with Berlin and Kensington intelligence community, and they work out or police where Powerhouse Jim was or is. Now they're trying to start problems, and all the exceptions and demonstrations the same thing too, because these are names, roles with the world leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since. These has something to do with some of the spots that show where and how Central Connecticut State University is recorded planting evidences intercities and on and off campuses and online. Further, the school board has people with a whole bunch of people tied to Weathersfield Pizza and names next to, which is not far from the state of Connecticut corrections, judicial branch offices. And their roles also with names off the state corrections offices who have been planting avid roles with predicate acts with facts, coordinated on campuses, stuck into databases as federal evidences, crimes, roles, and therefore worse, and pretended things online and at other locations and with the news. WFSB is also recorded involved with police, with Ron Adams involved with child sex offenders, where those contacts are still standing, where they have religious locations also involved because of the involvements of the police forms and of the courts, and roles with uses of names on all sides of criminal and of civil cases. Their lawyers, the victims advocates, and interbranch switching names, sequences, fake things into databases, lawyers on all sides. And the news at the same time have been planting evidences. Then they had to hide that, where how the quality of fact human nature is maintained as criminal insidiousness by a singular breaching method that needs that singular quality of fact human nature self-valued as the value of the branches of government individually grouped and together, retired and standing, and the difference between that. There's a certain type of victim slash hyper victim. Forgiveness is to also discern how simultaneously the family members of overt criminal enterprises, their little kids and the adults, and the private ones. On Facebook, they've been planting evidences together, and they've been planting fake motivations, as rolls with identity theft, fraud, slanders, like this with this Ron Adams. He's been he's been he's been he's been bullying people that post on my comments with police. Also with the name Cololo, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated confirmed, involved with wire crimes with them with the Wethersfield police phones and falsified police reports, including with child sex offenders, including medical offenders at the same time, and judges' family members involved with those doctors, attaching kids and their family members to fake conversations with themselves and their family, and how they have whole families working at the mental health locations together. You guys are missing what's actually recorded because Ron Adams and police tied to him like people with the name Powers. They've been fabricating evidences with child offenders and elderly abuse. These are people with the elderly home. There's an elderly home not far from the state of Connecticut corrections offices. Has roles of worse than murders with types of jobs involved with tortures and extortion that is also relative our founders told us to address. Honestly, the torture and extortion of George Washington, of James Madison, and the uses of that and roles with that, how that's relative to. Yeah, how I'm writing. I want name and sequence. New Britain Superior Courts people and Hartford Courts people and Connecticut District Court people and people on with all kinds of conjunctions to the state judicial branch offices. Also, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He's one of the ones involved also with WTNH, with wire crimes and with fake emails, digital crimes with digital child offenders. A principal involved with proven upskirt pictures, roles on and off the campuses has something to do with the roles with the intelligence community, with shopping centers and with malls. And in other words, and with them pretending they could speak for the law in nature. And while tactically delusions raw, they've been putting fake things in the databases in between unconnected databases and time conscious use of it. These are names involved with the World Trade Center with more predicate acts, the ones involved with child abusers. I couldn't believe these are ones with Sandy Hook too. Make sure you don't pretend you don't understand that the courts are recorded and having been involved with this. They're not going to be able to solve it. They're going to have to get on paper with this Ed Powell and Ron Adams, whatever his name is, because he has other accounts associated with it. There are other accounts associated with him, whether he realizes it or not. I'll tell you what, you do 30 jump into. Make sure Ed Powell, you have obligated. Tell Ed Powell's got obligations by the law. There are more credible threats and confessions times to roles with drugs and medicines crimes with the kids, people associated with the Eastern States Narcotics Drugs Task Force, and police and lawyers and their family members associated with Hartford Hospital, like with the name Violet, and military, foreign and domestic, all levels on off Hartford Hospital and the spots next to it have been planting evidences. There's a scheduled family who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, and had no response. They don't know me. They only record, they sought me out to make a fake exception, pretending other. Their neighbors are also with them, involved with predicate acts on and off campuses, in between unrelated campuses where there's uses of that roles. These are interstates too, families. So Judge Napolitano, Ron Adams, is playing games with Ed Powell, who's been fabricating emails with the principal child abuser they forced. There are males and females and their family members with as prosecutors and their family members and judges and their family members retired and standing with the Britain Superior Court and with Hartford courts. Before the World Trade Center attack, and Eric Burgess and other people with the military were affected to confessions to me. I found out it had to do with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. See, we have experts on the law speaking about the law, but leaving out exceptions, lying about the value of exceptions. So in other words, since founding too, our founders communicated for us to not leave out how the lawyers, the three branches of government, overt criminal enterprises, and private ones were also collusion with the breaching method. Otherwise, that body was sensed, even if that body was a majority, even if that body was a majority of nations. They had already all been identities that had already used the names of the sciences. They had already used the names of the other countries or of their own, tactically, criminally foreign influence while pretending other, tactically delusions raw while pretending other. So Ron Adams has roles with men and women putting fake things in databases with all natures of criminals. The witness protection program is also involved with the sources of Ron Adams and of an Officer Ed Powell. He's been repeating with different accounts too. So they've been sabotaging my reception by YouTube and by others, sickly distinctly too, to keep out sickly, not distinctly used, measure, and maintain. So please, because they have, in other words, get them on paper. They prevented paper, and they have wire crime methods where they just fabricate audio and video as the police forms involved with Wethersfield Police. They're not alone. And now the same families involved with them. They're involved with Hartford courts through time, Newington police families. There's a guy named Britt sought me out to confess that there's the name D. Simone. Is one of the ones with Newington police forms involved with Wethersfield, retired police chiefs, with drugs and medicines, crimes with kids, and identity thefts and frauds, times collusions with other nations, rolls with that, and their extended family members and their neighbors, per how there's uses of everyone with, speaking with others, tell them, well, you guys are too afraid to follow mandated law. Former police chief Cintron, he's also one of the ones on off Elm Streets and Wethersfield and Rocky Hill involved. Judge Napolitano and Ed Powell demand that you do 10 jumping jacks to make sacrifice. I can't wait to get a vasectomy. Judge Napolitano, so you have sick people involved with Wethersfield Police and with the FBI and with the sources of Fox News. Please, you guys are wanting to be heard. Follow mandated law and fix the fake communications with me that WFSB pretended also. WTNH at the same time, planting evidences at crime scenes. It has something to do. They're increasingly demonstrating the house names associated with the houses at Ridge Road and at the corner of Ridge Road and Walker Hill. They've been involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, planting evidence with judges and prosecutors and their family members and a whole bunch of other nations and people on off private and public campuses, making it look like things are real because they're at different places. They're putting the same illusions per a method by that. These are people leading up to the World Trade Center attack context, in that context and sense, recorded how used remotely as victims / hyper victims, but also as victim predators / hyper predators. Forgiveness is not to leave out means by correlation nature, where countries A through Z, state identities of logic can't defend themselves and afford discern. All that is discernible just by having black pupils, whites of eyes. And care for Native Americans, that's natural, no matter if you're Native American or not. There's a difference between some of them. I've been living so Judge Napolitano, the hyper evidential is here recorded. Wethersfield police have the name Sullivan recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the name Colal, but they didn't specify which one. As one of the ones further involved with recent people involved with the Phil Colal, and not long ago, they have ongoing roles with people from lighting forensics. They have roles with planting evidences. Also, these are timed roles with the witness protection program. Has roles with predicate acts, with facts and wire crimes, evidences crimes, with names associated with use with walking and driving by corners of streets on Griswold Street. They have roles with the names like Joshua Stryker. A Joshua Stryker has been roles with identity theft, frauds, and wasn't even my grade. He's involved with sequence shifts where he non-verbally communicates not even at the same day. That he was roles with other people from other locations, planting fake things in databases with a whole bunch of other people that I don't even know the names of. So at Trinity College, he has roles with names that used to live on my street here, who were planting evidences also with names where I lived before at near colleges. They have roles with intelligence community near me that had to hide lie progressions because they've been used remotely since they were kids. Nothing personal. They also brought this up so they could. That's one of the things they do to pretend, oh, it's personal. Why is he being? They also have privacy. The news media, a whole bunch of people with the name Mayano and the intelligence community tied to them, have roles with Mazzucato Bakery and Modern Pastry with retired police chiefs and foreign and domestic medical families and military families involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and names that are placed on campuses where there are predicate acts with facts, tricks, where they're sticking fake things in databases as predicate acts, collusions. As the names leading up to the World Trade Center attack context, in that context and since. As relativity to where and how the suburbs were designed before our founders were born. People on Church Street I don't even know the names of. And ones I do, I'm not sure if they switched if it's their real name or not. Record sought me out as strangers to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. They have roles with federal evidences, crimes through time, with names intercities, intercampuses. Central Connecticut State University has roles with names at other campuses, including medical and fire campuses, where they've been putting predicate acts with facts and with their extended family members for methods by where they and how they attach everyone and everyone around them to fake and change communications with themselves and with others. So WFSB also lied about legal cases regarding the World Trade Center attack and regarding names that were in the World Trade Center attack context, who they attached to faked and changed words. And they lied about the actual outcome of legal cases while attaching me to fake locations and conversations with themselves. A Roger Suzanne is one of the ones involved with the Rocky Hill intelligence community, with the intercities intelligence community, Wethersfield Interbranch. This is interbranch and the exceptions tied to them, like military, like fire campuses, like medical campuses, like insurance locations, like per uses also of the differences of everything. So we have the same color eyes, but we have different color eyes at the same time. Except how we could have the same color eyes too. Exceptions. So Joshua Stryker is one of the people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved with the name Joe Aiello, with people who had conversations with Wethersfield mayors regarding my name that were used criminally for an influence, who've been planting evidences with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and with the court's names and with the news at the same time, as those names involve times collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. So I don't know all their names too. The ones that know my name, I don't know if the campus is planting evidences with the ones on my street involved through time, increasingly. So Rick C.M. Faglione is one of the people who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He was influenced also with family members and people. Tim O'Brien. They use corners of streets and corners of buildings on public schools and private schools, collusions, planting evidences, identity thefts and frauds, where other people film and repeat things too, etc. It's uses of location manifest stuff because of how they were already used remotely, showing how they were already used remotely. And the reason these names keep coming up is because, in other words, Ron Adams involved with these people with the name Ed Powell. I don't know who Ed Powell is. There was a Powers too name used before. They have different things. I don't know who Ed Powell is. And the other guy too. I know that the Wethersfield police have roles with other police forms fabricating digital evidences to force child offenders still. I couldn't believe how people got away with that in the past. I understand now. And just because there's other natures of organized crime at the same time. It's maintenance to where people make subjects. Oh, the school shootings. Roles with the school shootings. Sandy Hook campuses and the courts tied to it. They have roles with it. And counters to it as collusions with there's people on that make opinions about Sandy Hook. All they're doing is blocking what's recorded. People involved with this Ron Adams, police associated with Ron Adams, and the proven child abuser principal. They had been with the news planting evidences to force that because they're New Britain Superior Court's families, Hartford Court's families, Connecticut District Court families had roles at the same time with state police families, FBI families, their neighbors. They got stuck. Officer Joe Zena, Ryan Adams says, is Ed Powell's real name. So Judge Napolitano, please get the three branches of government onto paper. The Britain Superior Court, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They're going to pretend other, but then where they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Because before the World Trade Center attack, they had affected confessions to me. And I recorded that. And how and why they were planting evidences through time at that same spot with names from Wethersfield, foreign and domestic military. Ones that like each other, not the difference between that also used. There's no integrity to the identities of the law. Forgiveness is per uses of that. In other words, they have readings of statutes with the Wethersfield police chief and with the former director of the FBI's lawyer and the Wethersfield police chief's lawyer and their family members and intimate ties and co-defendants of the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved all along roads and routes and parallels to them and conjunctions to them and to that. So, Ron Adams, don't speak to me unless it's about the confessions of the principal child abuser who also brought up the Weatherfield police and people involved with you with different accounts too with your name. You know whether you realize or not, your nature that's collusion anyway. In other words, so stop pretending you know me. Stop making up things about me, and stop saying different, switching things, leaving that out too. You say different things too, because you have roles with courts and with judges. Also obstructing justice with my ability to communicate with no Judge Napolitano. I'm asking him simply to get you guys onto paper to one name in sequence. There are more people with credible poisons and drugs threats. They have the fire departments involved with foreign and domestic countries too in interesting ways. And the sense and sensibilities of the males and of the females associated with them. Like there's a woman who was walking down the street on Griswold Street. There are proofs that she's one of the ones who had my name used with her so she could plant evidences as the people I caught with the identity thefts and frauds and slanders apart with of little kids consciously with the people associated with this Ron Adams and his campuses. See, there are professors, a retired and standing intelligence community at Central Connecticut State University that has affected confessions and roles of predicate acts intercities with names through time. So Ron Adams mandated law. See, there's mandated law so people, when there's punks like you obstructing justice and preventing people from getting a name to respond for what I recorded with the kids. They recorded pretending other because they have their kids involved, themselves involved with you too. You stop making up things about me. Stop obstructing justice. You're involved with those cops you brought up the names of. You said that, and then you're switching names too. There's different accounts associated with your name too, whether you realize it or not. Your nature of being used too as a criminal insidious nature. What kind of a sick punk too? Your tactical delusions raw. Make sure you get that cop on paper, one name in sequence, because there's violence involved. I told you that repeatedly. There's credible violence and poisons and drugs and rolls with smoke and uses of the kids of the leaders of the schools. That's affecting them too. They're being coached to hide roles with these people with the name Mendez and the other police forms you have roles with. Did you know? Do you know who the Mendez family is? There are multiple Mendez families involved. Intercity, on off Fox Connecticut News, they have roles with predicate acts, with names on off the Connecticut District Court and the New Britain Superior Court through time, involved with them with child abusers, and as names involved with child elderly homes. You see the sick elderly homes by our means. You think we don't have means better than that for the elderly, for the VA? You see how the Veterans Affairs buildings are designed like that. Like the people stacking in New York City. If you're honest with yourself and you're halfway sane, when you see that when you were a little kid, you know that was designed by a breaching method that was against our founders, that which designed the suburbs north and south, sick for tortures, extortion, and slavery of everyone. We're supposed to address the torture and extortion of George Washington and of James Madison. Honestly. So Mendez, there are people with the name Mendez, and involved with a food bag. Families involved with the intelligence community with food bag, and with a Robert Rodriguez all along Route 3 as one of the things among a number of things that connect strangers, where there were timed uses of those strangers. Also, what names at Whiting Forensics who have had crimes with their patients and criminals since before they got caught, is also one of the things that unites people involved with wire crimes with Ron Adams, roles, wire crime roles, child abuse roles, identity thefts and frauds roles, slanders roles, fake motivations for roles. Ron Adams is also one of the YouTube accounts recorded involved with the name Ray Cololo account, also typing drugs and medicines crimes roles with the police forms and doctors, foreign and their family members, involved also at the drugstores, policing next to it, foreign and domestic military. So these are people with Weathersfield Police Facebook page with the name Shumack. I never had a verbal conversation. I never had anything to do with his mother. They set up little fake things, take a picture of me. They have rolls of people from all these different countries that are putting fake things with kids from private schools are making it look they're planting fake evidences. Now these are people that grow up to be they take an oath having to hide what came first. The criminally foreign influence uses of people with their narratives by the oath they took. Fake or fake news used to quote President Trump. Fake news is real. News predicate acts are real. He's trying not to hurt them. See, this breaching method makes them have to be hurt, or in other words, or they hurt. It has certain type of victim slash hyper victim we have to address that way. Otherwise, they get away with lying about their own emotions and motivations and those of others. Also, where the delusions are raw and relative. So the name stacking is also what these people do. Also, they've been consuming roles, typing into my posts. There's an Anthony Yagman, there's a Joshua Julian, who's also one of the ones who was with the Facebook pages of Trinity College and of New Britain Superior Court and of the Principal Child Abusers Campus. That former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and a whole bunch of criminal enterprises people associated with them have roles with. And it's not legitimately if they're pretending to be the various natures of overt criminal enterprises they have involved with the names on and off Central Connecticut State University. Note they have departments like, they have criminal justice as one of their subjects. They're still criminally foreign influence. Since founding, our founders left us to demonstrate this. The name is next to it, the Tim O'Brien. It has something to do with their roles with Asian nations, Italian, German. There are German police families and military associated with like the name Kalvinskis, who are also involved with this Joshua Stryker and people with the Witness Protection Program, and a whole bunch of people with Judge Smith who have been planting evidences at corners of streets, like on Griswold Street, and roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders with those names associated with them with this Joshua Stryker. There's a Subby Bajerio. There's a I never had a class with Subby Bajerio. He's a little skinny weirdo. In other words, so these are judges that are spreading lies and about people, fake ties, fake natures of ties to people through their little fake. In other words, these are a whole bunch of people tied to a Judge Smith and to this Joshua Stryker and a Joshua Julian, who were planting evidences on the social media pages of the principal child abuser. Also with medical families and their kids involved, ones with the name Leahy. There's a Leahy family that's been pretending conversations with me through the mail too, whole fake transcripts. Judge Napolitano, please get these people on paper, one name in sequence. I can't get the Hartford Hospital to respond to me. They pretended through the mail to me about me to other people that I had conversations with the Leahy family, putting me in quotes, and about legal cases where they have crimes with the federal criminals in those cases, and with their co-defendant as former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in the context he can be sued. and was and is involved further with child abuses and elderly abuses and veterans abuses and medical corruption and other natures of organized crime and timed roles with uses of that at corners of streets and buildings as roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and unions, even unions, insidiousness. So there are people with the name. So get them on paper. Get the Weathersfield Police and the Interbranch on paper in one name and sequence. Since before the World Trade Center attack and since they've been planting evidences every year intercities. Let's get them on paper. I've been asking since before the World Trade Center attack to get on paper someone because they affected these confessions. They have roles with the family members of deans and of principals further then and now involved with the principal child abuser. So they're trying to hide, make it. In other words, they need to stop relying upon the identities of law experts who are criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. You have to stop being cowards and get those judges on paper to one name and sequence. When they do that, they're going to have to say sorry to those judges, and or with them too, and or the difference of that too is also relative. So the hyper relativity is involved here, and uses of election locations for remotely criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought, and the difference between the parties' values that is also measured and maintained. Can't defend what they say is politics and afford countered properly, let alone lessened. What really furthers the overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the most. New York City was designed. The suburbs were designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and nature, and to keep them blamed on other things other than themselves. Nature's demonstrations of the breaching of it. So, Ron Adams. I'm gonna show you why mandated law is such that you're not supposed to obstruct justice, play games. When someone needs a name to calmly counter people involved with guns, knives, poisons, and all kinds of other sick things with fake punks, interbranch and form at the same time since founding. Forgiveness is to end this. Do you know anyone from Sandy Hook campuses, Ron Adams? You should fear God if you do. And so we're going to address uses of the mayor's family members, for example, and the other levels of politicians involved. And the fake how they need to fake motivation so bad because of their roles with the Central Connecticut State University, intercities through time, and worse use of that. So I'm going now, people, but there's a Ron Adams. I don't know if it's going to stay there or not. But he's been typing things. He's one of the ones involved intercities with intercities police departments, have roles with a house with the name Colola that Weathersfield police brought up. But they also brought up roles with a Bob Chase who said it's a Phil Colola. But there's also all the difference. They have other family members. They said that there were years ago, Ray Colola said he was related to a subby Scalora. And Joe DeMoro said that where they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they had been involved with federal evidences crimes and drugs and medicines crimes with their eighth with Mr. Abruzzi involved with the intelligence community and their roles with others recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed this too. They have roles with names with the intelligence community at Cromwell locations that have been planting evidences. Has something to do with their roles along the streets, like Highcrest Street, and people pretending passions and emotions, where and how they confess and demonstrate, record, confirm their roles with the intelligence community. Names near their campuses, planting evidences, fake motivations, fake ties, fake natures ties to people, and or roles with people doing that. It's a serious thing. So make sure you guys get this Ron Adams on paper with his with the people at the campus he's involved with. Sick. And make sure that you guys don't, in other words, Fox News, please follow mandated law. For Fox Connecticut News, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have names, they have roles with names with the intelligence community next to that building in Hartford, which is next to the state capitol, who have been planting predicate acts with facts with them. Families named Mendez, where adults and kids conspire with identity thefts and frauds, where they're planting fake motivations also for the future. In other words, they're pretending people are having differences that are personal because they already pretended them to fake locations, fake ties to each other, fake natures of ties to each other. One of the things people from other parts of town had in common, the ones that are all involved, they sought me out as a stranger to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm their roles with the names with the same house/S near me, who had roles of war crimes through time with the police departments, plural, intercities. So you guys brought this up. And this Ron Adams, I don't know this Ron Adams. He's got different accounts too. Whole bunch of accounts with New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page has a whole bunch of people involved with child offenders, sexual, medical, at the same time, judicial. You have a whole bunch of little fake men and women working there. And that will be over once you follow mandated law for them. Get them onto one name in sequence with the Ron Adams and the police associated with him. And get me a response for the principal child abuser's confessions. I haven't been responded to for that yet. And make sure they get me off the fake conversations that were and fake locations they pretended with the news to force that not told on what I recorded. I recorded untimely deaths, brought it, roles with untimely deaths on and off Trinity College and on off the principal child abuser's campus in Wethersfield. That's in Hartford. These are the same ones on and off Trinity College, CCSU, have roles of predicate acts. And these, when I was a kid, the people from CCSU increasingly involved planting evidence, fake ties, fake natures ties to me, roles with little sneaky uses of all instances, descriptions. So make sure, Ron Adams, you get on paper with your police friends and make sure they don't pretend it's personal. They started it, they brought it up. All exception nature and demonstration, the same thing too. Watch what I caught them do with the Dillon family /S and switching names and exceptions.